Hello, welcome everybody. In this video, we are going to discuss the 696 formula and the rule of 1/3. And along with that, I will give you a sneak preview about the scheduler that I used. And it was custom built, the scheduler that I used that helped me pass my exam. And of course, in a very scientific manner. So before we dive in, let's have a quick recap about what the things are. So, for all the candidates, this slide must be very, very familiar. In 2021, level 1 is actually going to be offered 6 times, February, March, July, August, November, and May. So effectively, on an average, it is safe to assume that every second month we have a level 1 exam, whereas wherein the level 2 and the level 3 will be offered 3 times a year. 2021, that is May, August, and November. And level 3 will be offered again 3 times a year, that is May, August, and November. So this is an exception. The year is an exception for obvious reasons. Next year onwards, we're going to have the level 1s scheduled 4 times a year, as has been stipulated by the institute, and level 2 and level 3 will be scheduled twice a year. Now, coming to what exactly this is all about, we are not going to discuss the specific topic areas or the importance of each and every topic area. That I believe I have already covered. What I'm going to talk about is a matter of significance, and let's discuss that. That is of course, the exam weight and the topic areas of the exam weight, which earlier was pointed fixed percentage, now will be varying within a bound. For example, ethics earlier used to be, let's say, 15% flat, but now it is going to be varying between 15 to 20%. Quant will be varying between 8 to 12%, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's move down to the thing which I wanted to discuss, what is meant by the scheduler. So suppose we pick up the level 1. So if I am a typical level 1 candidate who will be taking the exam, let's say in July. Now, whatever is being shown here is also applicable for the August. Thereafter, I believe, November. I mean, there are so many months which is there. This is really pretty confusing. Thank God that I passed my exam years back. It looks like almost a century now. Well, so what is the formula of 696, and what is the rule of 1/3? We will going to detail that. All right. So typically what happens is that if you're taking the exam in, let's say, July, because there's no point in discussing the February or the March window. So I believe a safe period to prepare for your level 1 exam is 6 months, which is roughly beginning now. Today is January 15th as I'm making this video. So I give or take few days here and there. We will consider this January 15th day is as our start day, which will culminate into a solid 6 months time period for us to prepare. Okay. If you are a level 2 candidate, then I would suggest that the minimum time frame to prepare for level 2 should be 9 months. And if you're a level 3 candidate, again, the minimum time frame should be 6 months. Now, I know, a lot of people will have many questions out here that, how actually I decided upon this, and, you may or may not agree with me. Well, the thing is that, there are a lot of many factors which go into building the prep time. It could be your background, which means what you might have already studied in your undergrad. It will be your area of work or your profession, which could be actually conducive to what you're going to appear, or you could be a complete rookie, which means that you are actually a beginner or a fresher or somebody who's trying to break into the world of finance and would be starting from scratch. So I am typically concerned with this particular thing because this is safe to assume The rest of the two is, well, that is very, very, I would say, relative. So I'm going to discount that. So my focus is, that is how my focus is of 6 months. Now, how I divide this, the 6 months per se is not the question. The question is that what we are going to do with this 6 months is the thing that which I wanted to discuss with all of you. All right. So let's first divide the months. So we have Jan, we have Feb, we have March, we have April, and we have May, and we have June, and finally we have July. Now I'm not putting up a fixed date out here because now it's an exam window of, let's say, 15 days or 1 week or whatever that thing is. So it's safe to assume that from 15th Jan to 15th July is a timeline that we are talking about. Okay, so let's see what we are going to do here. Well, so typically what I would suggest is that you should gear yourself up to prepare the whole syllabus within this 2 months period, which is basically your 1/3 of the total time. Okay, between March 15th till May 15th, you should actually focus on revising the material and attempt all the blue box example. Sorry, just a sec. Attempt the blue box example in the CFA curriculum. You should attempt the topical areas and obviously all the EOCs. These are published by CFI. All right. Now between this last 1/3, so this is the first 1/3, this is the second 1/3, and this is going to be my last 1/3. This last 1/3 is going to be reserved for all the mocks, and as it is famously said in CFA preparation, mock till you drop. So this would be reserved for your mocks, it will be reserved for your drill, and it will be reserved for your the last minute revisions and clearing of any concepts that has proved to be an Achilles heel and things like that. So this is the rule of 1/3 which I followed, and I believe that it can work for you as well. Now, what is it that what we need to look into? Well, so before that, I would like to go back to the previous slide once again, just to give you an idea. So here you can see the topic areas and the weights have been given. So as before, we understand that the fee areas are very important, which are basically the FRA, the ethics area, and the equity area. But that is again not to say, as I said before, and I keep on repeating the same thing, that if you're a CFA candidate, you should not look to punt any particular topic area, just because it might appear to be too hard or you perceive it to be insurmountable. No, that's not how you should. Remember, this is not your run-of-the-mill kind of a program. This is a professional program that you have enrolled in. So I am definitely not one of those prep provider or advisor who would say that please go ahead and you may punt one area in favor of the other. No, never do that. You should be thought of with everything. Okay, of course there are areas where you need to be having some extra focus, because that is how CFI designs the whole program, and that is how CFI expects you to be. So for example, ethics, yes. FRA, yes. Equity, yes. So this 3 areas are definitely, and fixed income is a rising superstar in CFA curriculum. So that is how it is. So let's now, you have already seen the topic areas. So let's now go back to the slide which I was talking about. Yeah. So here, what I will do is, I will also like to talk to you about how the program, how the exams is going to be scheduled. So as you know, it's going to be 2 halves, first half and you're going to have a second half. Of course, there is a optional break in between of, so this is going to be 2 hours 15 minutes, and this is again going to be 2 hours 15 minutes. Okay, and the optional break is somewhere around 30 minutes. Okay, now though this is optional, I doubt that any candidate is going to take the exam back to back. Don't do it. Don't go in for a 4.5 hours of straight away exams of attempting 180 questions. That will burn you down. Obviously, do take the break as it has been accorded and move ahead. All right. So how the exam is now scheduled, how the exam is now going to be structured, let's just have a quick discussion on that. Let me first erase all of this. Okay. So the first part that you will be appearing for, CFI so far has indicated, and I use the word indicated with some degree of responsibility because things are changing very rapidly. So nothing is really very concrete now. But what has come to so far, that 4 topic areas which will be tested in the morning session is going to be, you have the ethics, you have the FRA, you have the econ, and you have the QT. And you will have in the second session, you're going to have portfolio management, you're going to have corporate finance, you're going to have equity, fixed income, derivative, and alternate investment. So they have evenly balanced out, and one good thing that I liked about this format is that unlike in our times wherein all the subjects were potentially tested both in the morning session as well as in the afternoon session, here they have made a clear distinction about the areas that they're going to test you in the morning session and the areas that they're going to test you in the afternoon session. So that way you can be sure of a couple of things. Number one, there is not going to be repetition of questions, repetition of topic area. One more reason that why you should not punt. And second is that you could expect even flow within the weights that has been assigned, within the weights that have been assigned. You can expect an even or a uniform flow across all the topic areas, which means all the topic areas are 100% potentially tested. One more reason that why you should not punt your exam. All right. So now, having said this, let's now go back to something which I wanted to share with all of you for some time, and that's pretty scientific, and I believe that's going to help you a lot. So right now in front of you, you see that there is an Excel sheet. This Excel sheet is basically nothing but how I have done, the scheduler that I had actually planned for myself while I was taking my level 2 exam. Okay, it's going to be a little complex to begin with, but rest be assured, please be patient with this. I can assure you that once you get through this will sound so logical, so scientific that you would want to do this your way, instead of you actually depending on any prep provider to provide you some free scheduler and stuff like that. It's pretty simple if you understand it once. Okay, so all put together, these are the papers that I had taken. Of course, I had also relied upon the third-party prep provider material along with the CFI books, and I have attempted the mocks from those third-party prep provider material. All right, so as you can see that in our times there used to be the vignettes or the item sets which are there in the level 2 format, and they are provided in a set, and the set consists of 6 questions, and that's how things were. Now this may not be exactly applicable as it is to a level 1 candidate, but I believe that you can actually run through this and see the science behind what I actually had developed. Okay, so on this hand, you see these are all the topic areas of level 2 which have been mapped. Okay, which have been mapped. All right. Now on this is your vertical area. On the horizontal area, you would see that these are the different papers, mock papers that I have taken. Okay, so in all put together, there were about 10 papers that I had actually taken. Yeah, so 10 paper I have 11 papers I have taken. All right, so to begin with, this talks about the time management. As you can see that when I first started off my mocks, I was pretty bad with my time management, and this is a brick color red, which means that I had to do a lot of improvement on my speed, on my efficiency, and on my skill and stuff like that in order to finish the paper on time. So each and every paper I attempted, I tried to ensure to the best of my ability to take them as per within the time format that's there, which means that it was 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. If there was a breach or I overshot, I had marked that. So you can see that the first 2 papers were not that great. Paper 3 onwards, there was some improvement, and thereafter there has been, in general, there has not been much of a breach of time management. So there was not much of a problem. Please do understand that this did not happen overnight. Okay, it all is a fruit of practice and efficient application. So second thing, as you can see, is that 4x6. What this 4x6 means, that this is the first item set, question set that I attempted in paper 1 morning, and I scored 4 questions correctly out of the 6 questions given. That is the first item set. As you would be knowing that before this, we used to have 10 item sets in the morning, 10 item sets in the evening, afternoon session. So the first set I scored 4 upon 6. So this is how the scores are all tallied. And you might also see that some of the cells are highlighted into green color, some of the cells are highlighted into red color, and some of them are highlighted into yellow color. So what is the significance? The green ones, as you can see, that are the ones wherein I have done exceptionally well in my mocks, which means that I've scored more than 75%. So 5 upon 6, 6 upon 6, again 5 upon 6, 5 upon 6, 6 upon 6, like that. The reds are the one where I have scored less than, equal to, or less than 50%. So, and here the YOLO section is nothing but the total summation. So if I had to talk about the paper one all put together had 2 item sets in ethics and 12 questions. So out of those 12 questions, I had scored 8. Paper 2 had 1 item set in the morning and 1 item set in the afternoon, when I scored 4 upon 6. Paper 3 had 2 item sets, and 2 item sets I have scored 9 upon 12, which is more than 70%. So I have marked it in red and italics. Okay. Similarly, 3 upon 6 signifies that overall I have done pretty poorly out here. I have only scored 50%, and that is how this is the total. This is the aggregation topic wise. Okay. So this is how it has followed. Similarly, for the FRS section, again the same thing, that 6 upon 6 in the first papers, first item set, second item set. Again, for the first paper, I have done 5 upon 6, which means that there were 2 FRA item sets in paper 1 of the Schweizer's mock, and I scored 11 out of 12. Okay. Similarly, in paper 2, there were 4 item sets, and I scored 18 upon 24, all put together. Again, individually, if any of the item sets dipped below 50 or dipped at 50 or less than 50, that has been highlighted by red. Okay, so this is fairly easy to understand. As before, the ones wherein I have scored better or that have been marked in red and italics, and the ones where I have scored poorly, I've not done 50% or even less than that, they have been highlighted. They have been highlighted in bigger font. Okay. So that's how it has been. So the thing is that when I did this across all the topic areas, what it did was that it immediately gave me an idea of how I have actually fared. You know, the number of greens or the number of reds gives me a fair bit of an idea that overall what I'm doing, how I have fared. Okay, so that's how it is. Now, once I have done that, you'd see that yeah, so on this particular area, in this particular cell, the figure 0.26 appears. Now 0.26 means that now if you see how many item sets were there in the area of ethics, so across all the 11 mock papers that I did, there were 23 item sets of ethics. Okay, so out of those 23 item sets, 6 item sets were the one wherein I scored either 50% or less than that, which amounts to 26%. Okay, now this is how I have marked it in a red color. Why? Because I have created the matrix in such a way that any degradation wherein a subject area has been found to be found to have score of less than 50%. How many of such are there? Item sets which has exceeded 25%. So which means that if total I had taken 20, let's say I have taken 20 such item sets across all the papers that I have done. So out of 20 such item sets, if 5 or more item sets I have secured 50% or less than that in terms of my total marks, those performance is being highlighted in red. Okay, so that's what it means. If you click to the scale, that percentage of degradation, any subject area having more than 25%, equal to or more than 25% in the fail zone, which means less than 50%. Okay, so that's how I'm charted. So ethics, you could see that it is slightly more than 25%, and hence I have penalized it. I have marked it at 26% in red. When it comes to FRA, similarly, I have done pretty well. There are no areas, which means that there are no item sets wherein it amounts to total of 25% of the item sets. So which means that if I click on this cell, you will see that total there are 36 item sets across the 11 papers that I have taken of financial reporting and analysis, of which 6 item sets were the one wherein I scored 50% or less. Okay, now 6 item sets out of 36 amounts to 17%, which is less than 25%. Hence, it has been colored in green. Okay. Similarly, equity. Similarly, if you see quant. Similarly, if you come to corporate finance, you would see that it has been marked in black. The reason it has been marked in black is because there has not been a single item set. There has not been a single item set across all the papers that I have taken, wherein my score in corporate finance area, topic area, was equal to 50% or less. So it has been super good, I consider, and I marked it in black, which easily and readily highlights my strength. Similarly, for portfolio management, it's 20%, again less than 25%, so nothing much to worry about. But let's come down and let's see. This topic area is derivative. If I can show you here that I want to zoom it a little bit more and show you, because derivative really was an area which I was struggling in back in 2013, 2014, when I was actually taking my level 2 exams. 2013, yeah. So as you can see, that I did not quite do well in my derivatives area, and the score was pretty abysmal. I had almost 8 sets out of 17, which means almost 50% of this 50% of the item sets that I had actually worked, I have actually scored less than 50%. Okay, so 50%. So there was a total of 17 item sets, of which 8 item sets I have scored at 50% or less than that. which amounts to 47%. So this was alarming. Coming back to the next area, which is your fixed income, 16%, nothing much to worry about. Alternate investment, all black. Economics at 6%, obviously, it's pretty good. It's almost all black. So this is when I mapped it this way. So first, so it immediately highlights my areas of strength. Also, it immediately highlights my areas of abysmal weakness, and it also highlights the area where I could actually improve by putting in a little bit more effort. Okay. So you can see that this was dated from 29/4/2013 till 29/5/2013. And after I put in my effort, I revalidated myself, wherein I saw that now the item sets are coming down drastically. You know, the fewer number of item sets where I am scoring at 50% or less. So I marked this as an improvement. And even after that, QT was an area where I had not done any improvement at all. Derivatives was an area where I still did not do much good, and that's been marked with a question mark here as well. Okay. So this was the area. This is how I mapped myself. Now, number of questions wrong. So these are the total number of questions, regardless of the item sets, regardless of the paper. So this is the total number of questions across the topic areas where I have got them wrong. For example, out of the total questions across the 11 papers of ethics, I had 44 questions wrong, which amounts to almost 32%. Okay. Similarly, FRA, I had about 66 questions I had done wrong, incorrect, out of the total 217 questions, which is 30%. Similarly, if you look at the equity area, equity, I had 234 questions. Out of this 234 questions, 58 questions I have done wrong. That amounts to 25%. So here my target was to see those particular area again where I have had the incorrectness of more than 30%. So you could see that there were two areas. One was ethics, and in fact 3 areas, 3 or 4 areas. Wow. The second was your derivative, as usual, not much of a brainer, and third was fixed income, and even very surprisingly, economics, which used to be my very strong area, wherein I had a marginally higher than 30%. Okay, so this is something, again, it becomes a ready reckoner for me, that how I'm faring, how I have done, where I should be focusing upon and stuff like that. And look at this column, the column AH. The column AH marks those areas where I had consistently scored more than 70%. So how many item sets I did more than 70%? That's almost 40% here in ethics. In FRA, 50% above. I have had the more than 70%. Please understand, I'm not including the one wherein I have only got 70%. So it's, if it is 12 questions and I have scored, let's say 9. Let's say 9. So I would only be counting 9 onwards. 9 out of 12, because 9 out of 12 is 75%. So anything which is less than 9, I would not have taken into consideration. So these are item sets wherein I have scored at the more than 75%. Now, why I did this kind of categorization? Because in our times, there used to be the buckets, the classes of score. Scores were tabulated and scores were never published in any particular number, a fixed number. What it was given was a band. So whether you are less than 50%, between 50 and 70%, or more than 70%. So these are the areas, these are the item sets which is more than 70% have scored. So how many of item sets have scored in ethics more than 70%? 40%, almost. FRA, half of them are more than 70%. Strong area. Equity, more than half of them, 60%, almost close to 60% of them are more than 70%, and things like that. And this was my estimate. After I taken my exam, I immediately came home back and I immediately estimated that how many of what was my score and how I have done and stuff like that. Okay. All right. So let's go to the second sheet, which is the potential map versus productivity. And this is very, very important. Now here what I've done is that I've tabulated all the scores here. how many of them I have got correct. So as you can see that this is exactly taken from here. So you can say it's, in a way, it's basically the summary sheet or the tabulation sheet of the raw scores out here. So morning paper 1 shows us book 1, I've scored 42. Book 2, morning paper 1, 45, 43, and stuff like that. That's just how I've gone. You would also see that here I have used some color codes, especially, wherein you will see it's the deep blue has been marked. Why it has been marked deep blue? Because they are less than 70%. The score has been less than 70%. 42 out of 60 used to be 70%, because as I told you that in our times, we used to have 10 item sets, 60 questions each session. So 42 out of 60 is 70%. Similarly, 33 out of 60 is 66%. 33 out of 60 is 55%. Obviously less than that. 36 out of 60 is 60%. So wherever I have scored less than 70%, I have marked them, highlighted them in blue. All right. Now, let's look at the second row. The second row talks about how many errors I have done, but obviously it's no brainer. If I have done 42 right, that means 18 would be wrong. And then I assessed the incorrect answers, and after assessment, I found out that 72% of those errors have happened because of my silly mistake. Either I did not read the question thoroughly, or I could not actually apply a very intuitive common sense, or I got the formula wrong, or there was some calculation error, or I, inadvertently chose the wrong answer. The reasons could be many, but this area is very, very important for us to understand, and it is specifically useful for you as well, because you will also be surprised to see that once you assess your incorrect or the wrong answers, you will see that majority of them would be because of your own silly mistakes, wherein you were found lacking in your concentration, you could not recall a very simple formula, or there were some inadvertent errors or formula errors or calculation and stuff like that, which are easily avoidable if you're there to apply yourself. Okay. Now, why I'm making such a distinction out here? Why I'm making such a point out of the whole thing? Because when you actually sit for exam, these are the silly areas. These are the mistakes that should be avoided. This should be avoided. Given that in your paper you will find certain questions, you will come across questions which are just not your cup of tea. You will not be able to solve them. It's understood. But having said that, at least the questions which are in your domain, which that if you keep yourself calm, relaxed, if you apply your mind, if you're not distracted, and if you're 100% there, okay, there's no way that you could get those questions wrong. For me, this 72% of the errors, 53% of the errors, these are those things. So I diligently worked upon them to ensure that in my D-Day, I don't have this matrix for me. Okay. All right. Now, coming to this, there are certain lines and directions that have been drawn out here. Why they have been drawn? What is the significance of this? Let me just again highlight. So if you, just a sec. So if you see this paper 4, I have taken this, and this actually leads to here. So what was done is that the same paper I have re-attempted here. So look at the difference. I scored 33 in my first attempt, and I scored 45, which is 75% in my second attempt. Okay. Similarly, if you look at this paper 6, shows us book 2, paper 6. I scored 36. And I retook the exam and I scored 50. So which is almost 82%. From 60%, 82%. All right. So after having done that, I recalculated that my average scores were 42, which is 70%, just above the safely passing mark. Median was 42, and after improvement it was 43. Okay, now coming back to this one more important thing, and this is a very interesting slide which I want all of you to look at, that what exactly I did here. So here what I did was that, this is nothing but, culmination of the first two sheets, the log sheet and the potential map versus productivity sheet. So what I did here is that I tabulated from a scale of 1, I tabulated from a scale of, just a sec. So I tabulated from a scale of 1 to 10, and what this 1 to 10 signified, 1 signified that there is really not much of a significance to improve upon. Things have been very near to perfect, and 10 obviously talks about that you have vast improvement is required. Okay, vast improvement is required. Now, as I mentioned before, that you will get questions wrong, but what are the reasons? What are the reasons behind getting those questions wrong? Is it because you have certain conceptual lacuna, or is it because you have not practiced enough question, or is it because you're lacking in speed and you have to make a guesswork at the last moment, or because you're prone to doing and committing silly mistake in those particular area? Because see, it's only human that you will favor certain topic areas where actually you might be working, or you have certain special inclination, and there will be certain areas which you may not like. For example, in my level 1, I never liked ethics, only to understand the relevance and the importance of it when I came to my level 2 or level 3. Okay, so this was one area which I really used to think that, hey, it's so theoretical. Is there any practical application of this? And now, of course, I understand the significance of it now. So here, how I have marked myself. So the way I have marked myself is that if you look at this area, so this derivatives, of course, as we can understand, the derivatives has been proved to be a nemesis for me. So 4 upon 10, that means conceptual errors was not many. Practice, yes, there are a lot many practice, errors happen because of lack of practice. Speed, yes, and negligence also. So obviously these 3 areas, the further refinement of my assessment indicated and signaled me that the area of derivatives is proving to be nemesis, not because that I have certain conceptual lacuna, but because I have not done enough practice, or I have been negligent at times because I have some some aversion or some sort of fear instilled in me because there's a preconceived notion or something like that. Similarly, if you come to ethics, so conceptual error, well, it's almost not there. Practice, well, I did practice a lot of questions. Speed, yes, speed was an issue, and negligence again was one more issue. So this is how it is. So when I further broke down, this is before my first assessment. After revisiting all those areas where I could actually do better, and I did work upon, and when I came back and I saw that how are the things now, and I could understand that there are there is a significant difference between this table and the table before. This is at a very basic level, and this is at an advanced level, wherein I was already scoring more than 42, 43, which is out of 60, which is more than 72, 75% I was already scoring. And yet I was still trying to find out that what is the reason behind my, my errors, if any. And then I took out a composite score as well, which comprised of both the table 1 and table 2. Now, this is a little bit of a subjective. I don't want you to go here, but suffice to say that, don't look at the figures or the numbers per se. What you should be looking at is that how and what they signify. And then finally I drew, this was just a week before, that, well, this is what my composite scores look like. Remember, higher the composite score, more is the area of concern. So, is it immediately curable? Needs a little bit more pushing, or it's gross hairware. So, derivatives was still consistently ranking as one of my very weak areas. And I was really worried. Ethics, well, not much of a push area. FRA, well, not much of a push area. Economics is immediately curable, and rest of the topic areas were pretty much under my control. Okay, so this is how I assessed myself, and this is again a little bit of mathematics. Let's not get into it. It's pretty complicated how I do it. Okay, so how much did I score? What was my final result? Well, my final result was actually no surprise for me, given the way I had actually prepared, and I knew beforehand what were the areas where I'm not going to score much or I'm not going to ace them. Finally, when my results came out, except for my derivatives and QT, which were in the 50 to 70% range, which was the middle solid range, all of the 8 topics were above 70. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this session. Sorry, it got a little long, but I really want you to take, really want you to go through this, understand how you plan it. See, understand, you need a plan. You are up against a battle, and you need not only good resources, but a strategy, tactics, and a definite plan which synchronizes with your timelines. And this is the most scientific way which I could think of. Maybe some of the prep providers will be readily providing you some more advanced tools in terms of scheduler. But you know what? It's always a nice thing to make your own scheduler, because scheduler has to be customized. It cannot be one size fit for all. Thank you. And I hope you like it. I'll see you in next video very soon.